In the village of Okobo, there lived a man named Umo. Umo had 3 daughters, Mfon, Hannah, and Esti. Mfon and Hannah were his daughters from his second wife, Faru, whom he loved so much, while Esti was his daughter from a woman, Sese, whom he had impregnated with no intention of marrying. According to the tradition of their village, when Umo learned that he had impregnated Sese, the woman whom he didn't love but manipulated to get intimate with him, he was forced to marry her against his will. Sese's parents insisted that Umo had to marry their daughter Sese because they didn't want their grandchild to be a bastard. Seeing that he had to take responsibility for the baby, Umo reluctantly married Sese. After their marriage, Umo constantly maltreated Sese at the slightest provocation. He would beat her up even with her pregnancy, which in turn caused a lot of complication for Sese. Unfortunately, one day, Umo hit Sese so severely that he put her in a condition where she was forced to give birth before the usual 9 months. After giving birth to Esti that night, Sese passed away and didn't even have the opportunity to look after or raise her newborn daughter. Shortly after Sese passed away, Umo sent Esti to Sese's parents so they could look after her, claiming that it was better for the baby to stay with her grandparents than for the baby to stay with him. 2 months after Sese passed away, Umo married his lover, Faru, and she bore 2 daughters for him. While Umo lived with his wife and 2 daughters, Mfon and Hannah, he completely forgot about his daughter, Esti. He never called to check on or visit her. In fact, to Umo, he had only 2 daughters. For years, Umo, his wife, and his daughters lived as a happy family. He had a clothing business where he imported clothes from other villages and sold them at a higher price, so he was doing well financially. Unlike his peers who lived in small huts with their wives and kids, Umo built big thatch houses which were considered to be the houses of wealthy people. When Esti was 10 years old, she began asking questions about her father and why she had never seen him since birth. At first, her grandparents thought they could keep Esti away from her father since it was apparent he didn't want her in his life. But when she kept questioning them, they were forced to take her to the village of Okobo where Umo and his family lived. On getting to the village of Okobo, Esti was surprised to see that her father, whom she had been longing to see, had a family. Even with what she had seen, Esti still wanted to get to know her father because she was tired of her peers laughing at her and teasing her about being an orphan. When Umo saw Esti and his first wife's parents, he was mad at them for showing up at his compound unannounced. He even tried to send them away, but Faru, his second wife, intervened. "My husband, instead of sending Esti away, she can come and live here with us and help around the house. You know our daughters are still young and they can't really help with chores, so we need Esti," Faru said. Immediately after Umo heard that, he bought the idea and agreed for Esti to live with him. Esti was so happy when she heard that her father had agreed to let her live with him. She had been looking forward to staying with her father, and her dream had just come true. That day, after her grandparents returned to their home, Esti was given a small hut to keep her belongings. Esti expected that she would become a part of her father's big, happy family, but days after she arrived there, she realized that her father hated her. For example, if her father and his family were having dinner, they would all sit and eat together, but they never allowed Esti to sit and eat with them. Instead, Esti's stepmother, Faru, would tell Esti that she was only allowed to eat after everyone else had finished eating. That way, if they needed her to serve more food or clear the plates, Esti would be available to do all they wanted. Not only that, Faru began to assign all the chores to Esti, and she would treat her unjustly. While all this was happening, Esti's father, Umo, continually showed Esti that he did not like her, which always broke Esti's heart. Since the day Esti moved into her father's compound, her father had never smiled at her or treated her like his daughter. Instead, he would always yell at her and openly compare her to his younger daughters. For many years, Esti continued to endure the horrible treatment she received from her father and her stepmother, and she prayed that one day her father would love her equally. Even her stepsisters, whom she always treated with love, treated Esti with so much disrespect. They knew their parents would always support them in everything they did, so that allowed them to always insult Esti and humiliate her in front of their friends. Her two stepsisters, Mfon and Hannah, grew up to be as mean as their mother, Faru. They were so spoiled and over-pampered that they were among the most popular girls in the village of Okobo who lived wayward lives. While Mfon and Hannah were the popular children of Umo, Esti was just there in the shadows. In fact, some villagers did not know that Esti was Umo's daughter because he never talked about her like he always talked about his other two daughters. One Christmas season, calamity struck Umo's business. A big fire had started in the market area where Umo had his fabric shop. And unfortunately for him, his shop and all the expensive fabrics he had imported from other villages got burnt. When this happened, Umo was so sad because the fabric shop was his only source of income. His wife, Faru, was a housewife and she depended on Umo and his earnings for survival. Weeks after Umo's shop burned, life became very difficult for them. Things got so bad that Umo and his family could barely eat 2 square meals a day. When Faru could not take the hardship anymore, she suggested that Umo meet Mr. Udo, a rich man in the village, and ask him to lend them some money so he could start up his fabric business. Since Umo and Mr. Udo were acquainted, Umo thought about his wife's suggestion and decided to talk to Mr. Udo. Aside from being a wealthy man, Mr. Udo was also known to be a chronic womanizer. He had 14 wives and still had other concubines he met with in secret. When Umo went to talk to Mr. Udo about the loan he needed, Mr. Udo agreed to give Umo any amount of money he requested. He even told Umo that he was ready to give and not lend Umo the money, but on the condition that Umo would let him have his way with one of his beautiful daughters. Umo was very disappointed when he heard that, so he left Mr. Udo's house and promised to get back to him the next day. When Umo got back home that day, he told his wife, Faru, everything that Mr. Udo had said. As soon as Faru heard that Mr. Udo was willing to give and not lend them the money, as far as he could sleep with one of Umo's daughters, she began to dance in the room. At first, Umo did not understand why she was so happy until Faru told him that giving one of their daughters to Mr. Udo was not a problem. Without wasting time, Faru suggested that they give Esti to Mr. Udo, and Umo agreed immediately. That same evening, Umo went to Esti's hut to talk to her. Esti was shocked to see her father come into her hut, and just as she was about to get him a stool to sit on, Umo told Esti that he had come to ask for a favor from her. He started by reminding her of how his fabric shop had gotten burned and how they were really suffering as a family. Then he told Esti that there was a solution for them to get back on their feet financially, but it was all in Esti's hands. "I don't understand you, Papa. Please explain," Esti said in a confused tone. Once Esti asked Umo to explain what he meant by everything was in her hands, Umo told Esti that Mr. Udo, one of the wealthiest men in the village, was willing to give him a lot of money to start his business again, but on the condition that he would sleep with Esti. When Esti heard that, she told her father that she couldn't do something like that, but Umo began to blackmail her. "Esti, my daughter, if you really want to see our family happy and finally earn my love, then you will do this for us. If not, you, your mother, sisters, and I will all starve to death," Umo said. That was the first time Umo referred to Esti as his daughter, and hearing that made Esti so happy and emotional. For a very long time, Esti had been yearning for her father's love, and when she saw the opportunity to earn it, she agreed to do whatever her father wanted. The next day, Umo took Esti to Mr. Udo's house. Just as Mr. Udo had promised, he gave Umo a huge amount of money and told him that Esti would return home by evening. After Umo left, Mr. Udo ordered Esti to go into his hut, undress, and wait for him. Minutes later, he went in and slept with her. Mr. Udo did not know Esti was a virgin until he finished sleeping with her, and Esti never mentioned it too. That evening, after Esti left, Mr. Udo realized that he had just deflowered Esti, making him more interested in her. Esti believed that after she slept with Mr. Udo once, her father's business would return to normal, so she would finally earn her father's love and be accepted fully into the family. But she was wrong. Her father, stepmother, and stepsisters did not treat Esti any better. They still treated her like an outcast. The good news about her father's business was that he was able to start his business all over again and financially get back on his feet. The bad news was that, regarding Esti, Mr. Udo developed an interest in her after he found out that she was a virgin. Because Mr. Udo wanted to keep having his way with Esti, he paid Umo and Faru a lot of money so they could turn a blind eye to anything he did with Esti. Every night when the village was dark, Mr. Udo would go to Umo's compound and go straight to Esti's hut to have his way with her. He did that every night. On some nights, Esti would yell for her father and cry at the top of her voice, but Umo never did anything. He and his wife Faru were more interested in the money they got from Mr. Udo every night he came to their compound. All of these continued for nearly 6 months until Esti could not take it anymore. She was in a terrible place mentally and she hated her father for doing all he did to her. One day, Esti decided to run away from her father's compound while they were away. She figured it was better for her to go back to her grandparents, who loved her unconditionally. So, when the right time came, she packed her things into a small bag and ran away. But before she left, Esti made sure to steal all the money in her father's possession. It was her own payback for all the horrible things he did to her. Unfortunately for Esti, when she got to her grandparents' house, she learned that they had passed away due to a widespread illness that affected so many people in their area. This made Esti very sad, but it gave her the idea to move to another village where her father or his family would not find her easily. Eventually, Esti moved to the village of Iru, where she started a new life. She had always wanted to start a fish and small farm, and she finally did that with the money she took from her father. Luckily for her, the business boomed and she made a lot of money from it. Unfortunately for Umo, after Esti ran away with all his money, Mr. Udo got mad that Esti had eloped. In anger, he went back on his words and asked Umo and Faru to pay back all the money he had given to them, or else he would seize his business. When Umo and Faru could not pay back, Mr. Udo locked up Umo's fabric shop, leaving Umo and his family with no source of income. Shortly after this happened, Faru divorced Umo and she took her daughters along with her. Umo never saw Faru or his daughters again, and he even learned that Faru had married a rich man shortly after she left him. Up until Umo died, he lived in regret about how he sold his daughter's virginity for money and how he turned her into a pleasure toy just for his selfish reasons. As for Esti, she lived a good life and made new friends in the new village she moved to. She also learned that sometimes even family members can be selfish and only do things for their own benefit. The end.